Game on 2FM in association with Aviva, proud sponsor and supporter of the IRFU Mini Rugby Festivals. Game on 2FM, weekdays from 7.
And you're very welcome to Game On here on 2FM. We are live from the Aviva FanStudio at the Aviva Stadium in Dublin. Yeah, we have our live studio audience. We have a Republic of Ireland international match to get stuck into, and we have an expert panel to do just that. Would you please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, in no particular order, Alan Cawley, Gary Murphy, Keith Fahey and Kevin Kilban. Lads, you're all very welcome. We have plenty to get through between now and 8 o'clock as always. We'd love to hear from our radio listeners on the show. So if you'd like to put a question to the panel tonight, you can do so on Twitter using the hashtag AvivaFanStudio. So follow at GameOn2FM if you're not already doing so. Why aren't you? Or at Aviva Stadium, and you'll be able to keep track of all the goings on between now and 8 o'clock. I should also mention we are streaming the show live on aviva.ie/FanStudio, and you can watch us on the RTE player later on tonight. Alan, you like to go home when we're on these things. Yeah. Open a bottle of wine, take off your clothes and watch yourself back in television, don't you?
Yeah, Sky Plus. I have it all Sky Plus.
You have it all Sky Plus, yeah, and why not? I do have a competition as well for our radio listeners and for the Aviva FanStudio audience here tonight as well. 2 tickets for the Republic of Ireland against Switzerland tomorrow night and Slovakia on Tuesday, with thanks to Aviva Home Insurance. So if you're listening on the radio, text in 51552 with your name and we'll draw a winner before the end of the show. For our audience here at the Aviva FanStudio, have a think about a question you'd like to put to the lads, and the best one at the end of the night will win the tickets. Okay, Gary, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
I was wondering as I was driving in how Rob Heffernan and Olive Loughnane are feeling today. For anyone who doesn't know, Olive Loughnane is now a world champion. Rob Heffernan was awarded the Olympic bronze medal after the Court of Arbitration for Sport upheld 6 appeals today filed by the IAAF against Russian athletes. So essentially, Olive is now gold and world champion, and the Olympic medal that Rob Heffernan has strove for so long is now his, a bronze medal. And I suppose it's better late than never, and they're obviously delighted with those, but equally their moment in the spotlight has been taken from them, and the day that they should have had is not possible.
Yeah, absolutely true. I think Olive is from 2009.
Yeah.
So to get something for 7 years later, strange thing to celebrate. And Rob's 2012. It's 4 years. I think sport, and especially sport we're covering tonight, in football is all about the moment. It's all about scoring goals and fans going crazy, and you go back to the hotel or whatever afterwards, and you can't come down from the adrenaline high. I think it's really sad. I think 2 wonderful achievements, but they didn't get that moment to get that buzz and to feel that. And I'm sure it's probably like getting a Christmas present in the middle of the summer or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
so
we can't. On the one hand, you have to say this is fantastic and it's overdue, and they deserve everything that comes their way from now on. But for me, Alan, the sports moment that is victory, that is that medal, that podium position that Rob Heffernan can stand up there, look at the flag, and savour it all, has been taken from him. And I remember at the time how devastated he was to finish outside the medals.
I listened back to an interview today, actually, when he finished outside the medal too, and it was unreal, the reaction. And he basically put it down to, he performed great. He said everything went right for him on the day, and just 3 better people bet him on the day. And for him to have that attitude, and now everybody knows it wasn't 3 better people, it was 3 better enhanced people, through the wrong ways, really, as we all know. And as you say, he must be, even though on one hand, obviously he's delighted that he gets kind of reconciled now with the medal that he's strived for all the years. You've got to be gutted. You have to be, Hugh, because imagine we see Katie Taylor coming home with her gold medals and everybody goes bananas, and there's people up at the airports waiting for them, Paddy Barnes, the boxers, everybody jumps on board. You can call it a bit of a bandwagon, because that's what it is when it comes around to the Olympics.
Yeah. And
that's no disrespect to them, but people do tend to only take focus in it around that time. And as you spoke about the moment, that was their moment. Rob Heffernan could have came home a hero to Cork. Now, even though he's still hugely respected and everybody loves Rob, I'm sure, but that moment is gone. And how do you fix that now? You can't.
I mean, imagine Keith going through a league campaign at the end of it, and you should be champions, but you've been cheated out of it. And that day, the dressing room atmosphere, and then 6 months later, 7 years later, you're awarded the medal. I mean, it's not the same thing.
No, like Gary said, you're expecting, if you've done well in the race, to get your rewards, and to get it that far down the line, I think How is he going to celebrate that? Unsure. Not the same way he would on the day that he should have got it.
Yeah, and I like Kevin. The point has been made. Like, you know, it is better late than never, and this is great that this has happened now in one respect. But equally, what's your view on it?
Well, it's something that he can perhaps show the grandkids in 20, 30 years' time, whatever that will be, and that's the only thing he can maybe look back on. But I've got to stick with the lads on that one. He's lost that moment. He's lost that feeling of winning the medal, the homecoming that would surely come his way as well. The recognition is there. That's the only thing that he can probably take of it from a personal point of view. But this epidemic that's running through sports, not just athletics, that's suffered really at the hands of drugs over the last few years. There's probably, I mean, obviously we've all got, certainly us three with the football backgrounds. I'm sure there's a lot of cases within football that haven't come to light and probably never will come to light. But this epidemic probably needs clamping out. What I just said, I saw Tony Bellew today. I thought him doing an interview regarding drugs in boxing. Tony Bellew just going along the line saying, look, lives are at stake here, particularly in boxing. Lads are stepping up 2 and 3 weights at a time. This could end up with someone getting hurt seriously in the future if this is not sorted with lifetime bans. That's the only way it can go.
Do you think sport overall has a huge problem? I mean, it seems that with every week, with every month, and with every sport, we're finding out that the more we'd like to believe, the more we can't believe.
Yeah. I mean, every sprinter in the world, you're watching the Olympics now and you're watching the World Championships, you can't help but have that doubt in the back of your mind, no matter who it is. Usain Bolt, and you throw names about. I certainly wouldn't want to throw them sort of allegations his way, but you can't help but feel it. Yeah. I think everybody thinks that now. The sport has been tarnished. When the reports come out on the Russian athletes, I think we all feel like that now. And again, I go back to the point, it's not just athletics. I think we're probably, because so much has been written over the last couple of months about Russian sport and things like this, but I think there's a number of other sports that's heavily involved within that. I don't know, I'm sure that maybe lads have got an opinion on that as well, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of other sports that
you can't mention a sport now without actually a question mark over, unless it's tiddlywinks or something like that. I mean, there's rugby, there's golf, there's football. I'm excellent at tiddlywinks. Beta blockers. But it's, it's right.
I think that the point as well is if you look at say Rob Heffernan, or even back in the day when Michelle Smith won her medals, like the commercial element that they enjoy for those couple of years afterwards, that's been robbed from him.
Yeah.
Excusing the pun, but like you'd wonder, is there a civil case to take against these people to say, for loss of earnings or whatever, because, it is their livelihood at the end of the day.
I think that's a huge point, Hugh, to be honest with you, because we obviously have the lads in the boxers from time to time in the studio, and we all know the funding isn't like, even though they're in the limelight and winning medals, well, there you go. So that's their moment to almost cash in, if you like. When they do so well, they're in the public eye, in the limelight, coming home as a hero. And all that's been taken away from them as well. So it's not only about... Now, Rob spoke brilliantly because he was saying, look, it's all I've ever trained for and worked for. So to get it, eventually, he's still delighted with it. But there is that other element, because these fellas have to provide for their families, provide for kids. And we all want a few quid, Hugh. You know how much I love the money.
Why do you think he's here? Yeah.
But it's true, and they've lost out on all that as well.
Yeah. Okay. Like we're moving on a bit if we can, because we'll come back to this probably next week in more detail, and hopefully get to speak to Rob himself. The Dutch legend that was Johan Cruyff, Kevin, passed away today, 68 years of age. He'd been battling cancer since October of last year, and he passed away peacefully at home. Alan likes to think he invented total football, but actually it goes back to Johan Cruyff.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at that, yeah. Alan tried to tell me again that we're going back 10 years, the things I did wrong in 99 or something, yeah, but I know, it was terribly sad today. I don't think there's any player that's ever played the game that hasn't, gone out onto the local field in the street and done a Cruyff turn, and, got that little bit of a buzz when you're a kid when you first do it. Every coach has, is put it in little drills since I was under 7s, under 8s, whatever it would be. And you see, I was a bit too young to see him actually play the game and really witness how good a player he actually was. But we've certainly seen all the videos now. Everyone watches YouTube. Yeah. We're certainly witnessing now the legacy he's left at Barcelona. The team that has come through off the back of his style that he implemented before he left Barcelona as coach. So he's had a great career as, you know, both player and manager, but it's horrible when such a prominent figure within the game loses a life, and again to cancer. See, my dad passed away just before Christmas from lung cancer as well. So
Me too.
you start to, you know, you start to realise, you know, how many are affected by it. So it's terribly sad, yeah.
Yeah, one of my favourite quotes, I think, from Cruyff, Keith, is that he made it, like, football's a simple game, but he made it look simple, and actually that was a hard thing to do.
Yeah, well, I don't know a lot. I haven't seen a lot of Johan Cruyff, but I remember as a kid, one of the first things I taught in our little drills is the Cruyff turn, and it's actually, it's funny now watching kids trying it, like...
You're still trying to master it.
Still trying to, yeah. But it's one of the first things I taught. I remember in the community centre up in Tallaght being taught that as a kid, and nobody knew then at our age who Johan Cruyff was, but you sure know now.
Yeah, and I'm the same as
I think
Kevin
it's true.
and the lads.
Probably a good point. That no one really knew as a kid. You don't know who Johan Cruyff is. All you know is the Cruyff turn. So it's synonymous with that, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm the same. I'm not old enough to remember. Obviously, the '74 World Cup. It was before my time. Right, look at all right, but. Yeah, I mean, like, going back and watching, I just kind of refreshed today. I went back and watched loads of YouTube highlights of the way he played. He was just a glider with the ball. It was just beautiful to watch him.
Graceful
play.
almost, yeah. And that's like us all here, I suppose. You see the clips and the videos and your parents telling you, or your dad telling you how good he was. I'm more interested in the after football side of him, Hugh, in terms of, you see Barcelona now, and he was like, you read the quotes and different things from books, and he was a visionary in what he wanted to do with the beautiful game, as we call it, and just in terms of how it was coached and how it was played, and he almost reinvented the game from that point of view. And he started off obviously with Ajax and then went on to Barcelona, and we're looking at Neymar, Messi, Suarez now, when people think they just turned up and they play like that. This has been happening for years upon years, and then Guardiola took it over, and obviously Enrique's there now. And that's the legacy that he leaves behind, and it's a phenomenal legacy to leave behind. There's not many people that would walk the face of this earth that will leave such a legacy behind as he has.
Yeah, and like, you know, we talked about this before, when brilliant sports stars pass away, that had an ability to change the way the game was perceived. You know, Michael Jordan in basketball, Tiger Woods in golf, and Cruyff was that person in football, maybe along with Georgie Best and a few others.
Yeah, I think if you look at the top players at the moment, you have obviously all of us up here, but you know, you've Messi, Ronaldo, Suarez, and whatever. Cruyff was 3-time Ballon d'Or, but his effect after he stopped playing was almost greater than it was whilst he played. And like, that's a remarkable thing to say about someone, because people always think about sport and the legacy you leave and whatever. And you're right about Tiger Woods; he undoubtedly has transformed the game of golf. But it's what he left afterwards is enormous. And you kind of wonder, if you were, you know, a Dutch person, why'd you do it in Barcelona, not do it in Holland? But,
yeah,
you know, now and he was successful there too. But he was. It's very rare that you get someone at the top level of their sport and then they go in on the other side and they're equally successful.
I think that's what's so fascinating about him, because he was obviously a deep thinker about the game. Like, so
yeah, when
you played, a lot of lads, and Kevin will tell you, Keith, you play with lads who just play the game, but don't necessarily think about it, or anoraks, you could almost call them, like, and
play on instinct as opposed
to... And even when you go home and would they watch football, like, and some of them wouldn't bother watching it and have no interest in it. I've followed football since I was that size to now, and just like glued to it. No matter what match, I'd watch anyone playing. Whereas there's other lads, loads of them, you come across loads of them in dressing rooms that have no interest, they'll just go out and play the game. But he seems to be, from an early age and playing, such a deep thinker about the game, that, as Gary said when he finished, he wanted to change the face of football, and you would have to say he has.
There's a few things I saw about him. Just say, I saw a few comments that were attributed to him saying about more or less saying about the modern game. We're so hell bent and we're so obsessed with stats now, stats-driven game. We see so many teams now going down the Moneyball route, signing players off the back of stats. And he was basically saying, look, I can't get my head around this modern-day thinking where everyone would buy someone off the back of stats, off the back of a computer game, or whatever it would be. You need to see players. You need to see what they got, because he believed in players that he was actually watching. He might not necessarily have fit the bill in certain clubs, but he saw something in people and in players in general that he might be able to see that could take a club forward over the next 10 or 15 years. And that was the thing that could be attributed to him, that he doesn't necessarily see that the way the game's going at the moment, certainly in certain quarters, is necessarily the right way.
And the criticism, Keith, of you look at the Premier League, and I suppose we've spoken a lot about this year about the fact that Manchester City just seem to have given up, that there's so many guys earning a lot of money every week to play the game, but they view it as a job. And when the chips are down and when they're actually asked to do something because they might believe in the jersey that they're wearing, they're not prepared to do it. Yeah,
well, it's different for every player. Like they've be earning super dough where they are, being successful, not successful at the moment, but it's different cases for different players. Players that are out of the team might jack it sooner than players that are in the team.
Did you play because you loved the game? I mean, did you ever get to a point where you just felt like a job for you?
It did for me, yeah.
Really, yeah?
I love spell.
I love football up until. Well, I love football, I still love football, but the most enjoyable years were when I was a kid, before I went professional. And
really?
Yeah, and the most enjoyable days were when I was up to about 11, 12, 13, 14 years of age.
And what did something happen?
Just no strings, no pressure, no like.
You're just playing with
you're just enjoying. You're going early to kick the ball in the net before games. You're getting there early with the lads, and you're playing football before the actual matches. All that. It was just the most enjoyable part for me. Yeah.
And did you feel, I mean, as you went on, that the pressures just didn't allow you to have that enjoyment?
The first day, like I went to Arsenal as a 15-year-old. I wasn't expecting what came next. Like, you're a professional before you're trying to be a professional. You're supposed to be the way they want you to be in training, and you're getting shouted at for not tracking runners, for not marking players, and that was something personally I wasn't used to,
And you were only 15.
15, yeah. I went away when I was 15, yeah.
Is that something that's lacking here, that we don't have those structures in place to prepare young fellas going up?
I think so, yeah. I don't know, I wouldn't be the man to tell anyone how to do it, but I think the players need to be, at a young age, need to be more psychologically worked with, I think, before they go away, because everyone's not.
Maybe protected a bit more.
It's a different environment here. Because like that, I went the same age as Keith, and you look at them, you're going straight into, as Keith said, a professional environment where you're getting professional wages, being coached every day, full-time setups.
I was getting £42.50.
Well, but
I was 29 quid, so yeah, you got a lot more money than me, yeah.
Tell them what you were getting when you were 17, as soon as you signed a pro deal.
That's confidential.
But that's the thing, and
I hope those wages didn't go up with inflation, did they?
Like, you're coming out of schoolboy football here, as Keith said, where you're going out just enjoying it, playing for the love of the game, and you're being thrown into this environment, and it's sink or swim, really, Hugh, to be honest with you. And you have to, but the point being that if you're not prepared for it, which we're not here, it doesn't give the young fellas much of a chance when you get there. Like, I struggled massively the first year. Little country bumpkin from Sligo going into the bright lights. I had no chance, Hugh. I had no chance.
I mean, Kevin, you mentioned it, like, that you went through a stage where it just felt like a job. Talk to me about that.
I think every player has that through the career. I think it's easy. It's an easy thing to throw at a player. It's they only think about is money, because ultimately, I think when you get into your career, maybe when you finish your career, it's about maybe having stability for your families, as Alan always spoke about in various sports. That's what it's about. But it's it does get very. You have very dark times, and I think unless you play for, we look at Man United over the last 10 years. We're all having to go at United currently because of how they're not performing week in, week out. But every team cannot be like Man United, and a majority of players, 99.9% of players, don't play for successful teams. So you're going to get a lot more darker moments in your career than you're going to get good. That's the way it is. I mean, the massive highs with me were always coming over to play for Ireland. That was the huge highs, but. And even then, at times playing for Ireland, it was difficult at times because of the stick that probably we were getting on the pitch. And I think coming over to play for Ireland, where you're with your club, well, obviously 5 days a week, a couple of months at a time, whatever it is, and you see the scrutiny and the intensity every day that's in the papers, in the media, whatever it would be on every player, and it's difficult to handle at times. It is, because you're not expecting it.
How do you cope with? This is one thing that fascinates me. You're out playing on the pitch, and you're getting abused. Proper
Happen
abuse.
Quite regularly, Garage, yeah.
Understandably so. No, but you get there's, say, a pocket of 10 or 20 guys in the stand just giving you 10-0 the whole time. How do you deal with that?
Well, it's worse when you're not playing in front of a bigger crowd. When you're playing, you can hear them. Yeah, so that is worse. But do you know what? I would have to say you've got to try and block it out. It does affect you, of course it does, but you're almost trying to play in spite of them.
Yeah.
You're trying to, I'll show them whatever it will be. That's the thing that you have to do.
Are there any structures in place in the clubs for dealing with situations like that?
There was nothing when I was playing. I've got to say, there's nothing in place to say, look, you're going to get stick from your own supporters. You're going to get stick from people that don't necessarily want you in the team.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily thought about. You grow up watching World Cups, don't you? You grow up watching World Cups, watching teams win the Premier League, watching teams win the European Cup or Champions League. It's all about glory. And when you actually play professionally, it's financially rewarded, yes, at the top level, but there's not a lot of glory involved in it. You're kind of scrapping away for results. A lot of the teams I played for were scrapping against relegation, and it's about grinding a result out, not necessarily playing the best football.
I think even the scrutiny is worse now.
It's worse
in terms
now.
of the social media and Facebook and all.
Yeah.
And you almost, and we're all guilty of it. You watch a match on a Saturday now, whereas years ago there was none of that. But people can almost set up a campaign after a match on a Saturday that a manager and all of a sudden it spreads like wildfire.
Now some players.
To be fair though, I was this week. I was talking to a few of the guys at Everton, and the guys were talking about Tom Cleverley when he was playing for United. There was a Twitter account that was set up that had thousands of followers, basically just trying to get him out of football. Now this is a kid. Now no matter how well or how good he's playing, this lad is a kid playing at United. He goes away and tries to get a few loan moves. He's looking for a career in the game, and imagine what he's thinking, because his family is seeing that. It's not just about him.
People can be unbelievably vicious. Just take today for example. Right, take today for example. Martin O'Neill gives a press conference today, and yesterday Roy Keane's asked about the wags, right? Whether the wives and girlfriends are going to be allowed in the hotel, and he gave a pretty curt answer, as he does. Martin O'Neill was asked the same question today, and he said something along the lines of, well, if they're very good looking, obviously they can come along. The ugly ones, maybe not so much. Everybody laughed. He kind of, in his own kind of downbeat manner, clearly a joke. Cue a list of people on Twitter. Martin O'Neill disgrace, the PC brigade jumping down his throat. And I'm thinking to myself, have people lost the plot now where they actually can't understand what is a joke?
There is no character in the game anyway, so that's the worst thing about it at times,
Social media is so dangerous for it as well. Like,
did you find that,
Yeah, I just found once someone starts, if it gathers, it's like an avalanche, it gathers a little bit more. People just, it's in fashion then to jump on it. And people want to be popular, they just jump on what's popular.
Yeah, they're just waiting to be outraged, basically.
They're so brave
on
social media. That's the problem. If you met them in the street, they wouldn't say it to your face.
Yeah.
But that's just the nature.
You can imagine.
Now, some players don't help themselves. Remember Jolene Lescott after the Villa got hammered, and he goes out and buys a 250 grand car and puts it up on Twitter.
No, but the thing is as well, no, he's right and he's spot on. I think players have got to try and realise the responsibility at times. I'm not saying there are a lot of idiots knocking about as well. Don't get me wrong.
Sure,
but when you're seeing that, what Jolene did, and I mean, I believe as well. Now I heard a different side of this again this week, that it was one of his mates that's actually done it. But now again, you can't say that. Regardless of anything, it's there are a lot of lads that do respond to stuff that you're going to get on Twitter. Sometimes we're only human, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a couple of questions in, and I just want to get to this one because it kind of leads me on to my next point. And I'll start with you, Keaton. What's the difference between stepping up for a friendly and a full international? Because you made your debut at this stadium here, your first start, I should say, against Argentina, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, the first game, the Aviva,
Yeah, so I mean, what was that like?
It was brilliant, I made my debut
in the previous game against Uruguay, was it?
And was it Paraguay,
Paraguay,
and I think the difference for a competitive fixture is there's more pressure around it, there's more media, it's just when you're involved in a game that means something like a qualifier, any sort of competitive game, it just feels like it's the real thing,
And psychologically as well, it's a different approach, I imagine, when you know there's something on the line, rather than just a friendly. Or if you're trying to get...
there's always something on the line. I think anyone, even young lads coming through, for me, I never took it for granted that it was going to be in every squad. So every time, even in training, I was always making sure that I was doing the right things, And
because, Kev, Martin O'Neill is going to be looking at a couple of lads tomorrow. We know there's a lot of injuries there. So it is a chance for guys to maybe put their hands up. Now, it's going to be difficult, as you said, to force their way into the squad for the Euros. But it's a chance tomorrow, and it's in their own hands.
It is. It might not necessarily be the Euros. It might be beyond the Euros as well. But sometimes you want that instant, that instant success when they see that little carrot that might be dangled in front of them for tomorrow, some of the guys. I remember when Keith actually came in. Keith came in, all of a sudden he did well in a couple of the games, and then you started out then in Armenia, didn't you? And you scored very early. Keith got a goal, and you know, and that was maybe the making of him in his international career. He started to go on and get and play regularly after that. But I think if you're the guys tomorrow night, what we've got to realise is that Martin named a squad of 40, cut that to 33. We have a squad of 23 for the Euros. So you're looking at 17 people are going to be cut from his original squad. I can't see too many changes being made. You know, you look at the likes of Judge. I think he'll be the forerunner, Alan Judge, like Brentford, and Harry Arter of pushing for that 23. But I think it's going to be really difficult for Martin to change from this squad that's already got into the Euros.
And look, Alan, he's admitted as much as well. Martin even today said, look, it is going to be difficult for people to get in there and force a place away from a guy that he knows and trusts and who's got him to this stage. And that's just the reality of it.
That is the reality. And I think players know that themselves, Hugh. And I'm sure the lads who are coming over will be under no illusions that they think if they play well tomorrow night, they're going to be in the squad. As Kevin said, they kind of know themselves who were the close ones and who were ones who are, like, you look at the likes of Chris Forrester, obviously, and people who are far away from it, who may be looking at the next campaign and the future. And it's good for them to be integrated now as well. So there is a good point in bringing them for that reason too. But in terms of the close ones, there is only one or two I can see pushing. As Kevin already mentioned, Judge and Hart are the only two that I would see having a real possibility of breaking in. But at the same time, Hugh, like you look at, I don't go along with totally either. You have to go with the lads who just got us there. Martin O'Neill is almost like an old school Irish person in that they don't like change. Like you go around.
Yeah, but Al, he's got to be fair though. It's got to be something special before the end of the season. It's got to be something special.
Of
James McLean before the last Euros, he had a big push, did something special, got himself in. I don't see anyone playing regularly, and it's got to be a Premier League. James McLean's playing the Premier League.
Well, Arthur's doing it week in, week out at Bournemouth.
Yes,
he's one who definitely has a real chance. And don't get me wrong, Martin O'Neill isn't fully entitled to pick his squad. I'm not saying change it, but what I am saying is you can't just go on fellas who might have been good back in November or January. There might be a fella who is having a strong finish to the season who you have to put in, rather than a fella who might have been involved in the qualifiers but didn't really play a great deal. Yeah. So there has to be a door for fellas to feel that if I'm playing well at my club, I have a chance of getting in here. Otherwise, why will they bother coming over?
Yeah, and it's nothing like a young lad snapping at the heels of the old lads to actually raise the guys who were there previously, to raise their performance levels. Say, hang on a second, this is the European Championships here. This doesn't happen every time for Ireland, so I need to lift my game here and don't let your man come in and take my place.
I think that's the same in any level. Yeah. Any level of football, that's the way it's got to be. New lads coming in have got to prove a point first and foremost on the training ground. But it's a small-sided games, little keep ball sessions. You've got to prove yourself, there's pressure in that in itself as well. Coming in, when I first got into the international side, there was Ray Houghton, Andy Townsend, Cascarino, all these sort of lads, and I was frightened to death for the first 6 squads, 7 squads.
How did they welcome you in? Was it a
They were great. No, they were great, but it was intimidating because they were my heroes growing up. So it was intimidating for me. So that was how it was, and that was the difficulty. So they've got to get through that hurdle first, and then they need to move on then to look if they're on the bench or if they're starting, whatever it is. It's little bits that you've got to try and get the best out yourself. You've got to try and, as easy as it sounds, try and play. You play the game that's got you into the squad in the first place.
But on yourself,
yeah. See, exactly what it is, Keith. You're spot on.
And what's it like running out there in front of the home crowd?
Brilliant, it's everyone's dream as a young lad to go out and play for Ireland. Like, that doesn't change for any footballer, so it was brilliant for me.
How were you dealing with the nerves? Were you okay? Was it
the
different?
Nerves, I'm grand on the pitch. I'm not so good up here, but I'm grand on the pitch. But that's something.
Should have done this out in the centre circle.
Yeah, if you do it out there with football, but that's something I have to work on this side. But out on the pitch, not a bother to me. I obviously get nervous, but they're good nerves. I would never get nervous that my touch would let me down or things like that.
So adrenaline more than anything else, really. Like.
Yeah, it's just you get into a zone and you get focused on your game and you work things over. You get that little feeling in your stomach, and I always knew it was a good nerves, not really jittery or anything,
Yeah, okay. We've had a question from Pat Walsh, and this is an interesting one. What Irish player has the strangest pre-match ritual? So maybe have a think about that. Does anybody stand out as having to do a certain thing? Obviously, famously Paul Ince used to walk out with the jersey, just put it on thing, which isn't that strange, I suppose. But can you think of it, even not necessarily Ireland, even your time in different clubs as well? Did anybody have any kind of weird or strange rituals? What about you before you went out to play a round of golf? Did you have to do a certain amount of putts? Did you have to spend a certain amount of time in the range? Was there any rituals you had?
I think you generally stick to. It can vary. It's probably no different to football, but generally you'll go a certain period of time with a 1 hour warm up, and if that's working, if you're playing very well, you'll stick with it. If you're struggling, you'll put in a little bit of extra time. But There was one guy, an Italian golfer, can't mention his name, and he had really bad OCD. He used to take his clubs, because generally when you're playing at the tournament, the clubs are left at the golf course.
Yeah.
He used to take his clubs back to the hotel, wash the bag, clubs, grips, shoes, the whole works every single night.
So the caddy basically had a free rein for the night.
And the clubs had to be the clubs had to
the bar.
the clubs had to be set in left in exactly the same place in the bag every single time. But he wasn't that good a player, so he didn't have regular caddies the whole time. So caddies were putting the ball over the place.
Can you imagine the caddy sitting there and saying, geez, we're having a few points. Yeah, where's your man? He's up cleaning the clubs. You have some life, don't you? What about you? Did you have any pre-match rituals, apart from doing your quiff?
Took me an hour to do it tonight as well. Better get the comb.
Look at you.
I didn't really know. I
suppose you kind of hang yourself, really. If you get too focused on having to do something, if you don't do it exactly right, then you're mentally gone.
You hear some mad ones, like managers who they wear a tracksuit and then the first game they lose, they'll change the track, start wearing a suit, and there's all sorts of mad ones. Fellas putting on their left boot before the right boot and all. It's all nonsense if you ask me, to be honest with you, Hugh.
Anything, Kev, no?
Nothing with me. There was a lad at Preston when I used to play, when I first came through at Preston. He's called Andy Fenton. He was a fullback, but people wouldn't be familiar with him, but the most superstitious guy that I ever met. So what he used to do every game, he'd have the physio. The physio had to give him his tie-ups, his shin pads, his boots. He had to physically hand them to him. But he had to hand everything with his left hand. So he'd be going, Baz, come over. So Baz would walk over with one tie-up, hand it to him, one at a time with his left hand.
Jesus.
Then he'd have to have
Surely he was just taking the mick of the physio.
Honestly, God, how it come to this, how it transpired, it was basically he got Baz, who was a physio, Mick Rathbone, he got him to give him his shin pads, I think it was, and his tie-ups. And then all of a sudden, it must have just got into his head that he took them off from his left hand. The weekend after, he'd come and give them with his right hand, and he had a nightmare. So after then, it was every week, Baz, left. And when you're getting a bit of a roll and you're winning every week, it becomes even worse because that obsession becomes in your head. And we had a good run that year. I think we won the league that year. But he ended up he was giving everything with his left hand. Baz, screaming at Baz for everything. So
Mad.
There you go.
All right. Have you any questions on social media there?
Couple, from Jack at Alro49. Are footballers better role models than politicians? You go for that one, Gary.
Bear in mind that you've got 3 footballers beside you and there isn't a politician in the room.
We're far better.
That we know of.
I'd say footballers are more honest than politicians.
Well, I don't think that'll be hard.
I think they've got more influence, haven't they? They've got more influence than politicians, I'd say that.
They come out, Donald Trump obviously running for the Republican nomination at the moment. It looks like he's going to get that, and then God help us all if he gets the presidential nomination. But apparently 60% of the stuff that he has said openly on the record during the Republican nomination campaign has been absolute lies. 60% of everything that's come out of his mouth has been lies that are proven to be lies.
So you only have to look at our own country, Hugh, and I'm not going to get into the whole politics.
No, we're not. We're here to talk sport. We're here to talk sport. Okay, Robbie Keane, Kev, because obviously, phenomenal record in an Ireland jersey over the years. And I think Martin O'Neill is being quite clever in how he's kind of dealing with any questions asked about Robbie, saying, look, Robbie's a massive part of the squad still, even if he doesn't start every game. But do you still feel that he has a lot to contribute for this European Championships?
Yeah, on and off the pitch. I think some people are maybe overlooking the influence he'll have on the pitch. I don't buy into that. I still feel if we're going to have a chance in a game and we need someone to score, it'll be Robbie that could or invariably does score that goal for us. He's probably just fallen a little bit off the pecking order, maybe with Shane Long's performances and the energy that maybe brings to the side, and John Walters if we're looking for that lone striker.
Yeah.
Robbie probably does need to play up front in a pairing, but off the pitch as well, he's been there, he's seen it, he's done everything. And, I go back to my point, maybe when I got into the squad with the likes of Cascarino and all these lads who you're kind of hanging on every word that they say. That'll be the same when a few of our younger lads will be coming in, the likes of, say, Alan Judge and Archer and all these sort of lads coming in. They'll be listening to what he's got to say. They'll be trying to draw from all his experience and try to put that into practice themselves. And I think he does have a massive say and should have a massive say within the squad going to the Euros. Yeah, I do feel that.
Keith, you've obviously played a good bit alongside him as well. What's he like, Robbie, in terms of what he brings around the squad atmosphere, even outside of the pitch duties?
Yeah, he's been part of the squad, part of the Irish squad
forever.
For the most successful period of time. He's been there, he's been to tournaments, he's played in all these qualifying games, he's leading goal scorer. He's very welcoming around the group and all. He looks after the young lads as Kev did, as Damien Duff did, Richard Dunn when I was in the squad. I think it'd be foolish not to have him in it, to be honest. I think with all his knowledge of being there and the owner, I think he just helped the younger lads and even the other lads that are in the squad as well. You know, he'll help everyone.
Should he be captain if he's not starting every game?
The criticism doesn't sit well with me. I have to be honest with you. I think he's an unbelievable player, Robbie Keane, in terms of what he's done over his career. We're a small little nation, and to think he's right up there amongst the top scorers in world football, international level. He turns up for every game that he's ever been asked for.
His commitment is unbelievable.
You can never fault any of that. And fair enough if some of the criticism is towards playing, because obviously his best days are behind him. But in terms of what he's achieved over the years, how can anybody criticise him? How could anybody honestly criticise him? And he has to be part of that squad. As Kevin said, if a chance breaks in them Euros and it falls to him, I'd have more faith in him scoring it than anyone else in the squad. Yeah, 100%. Even still to this day, when people still might argue that he's past it, I was lucky enough to be around him at Leeds for a small time in terms of his training and his movement in games and how well he operates as well as a centre forward. He's unbelievable, all that he's achieved, and I think that gets forgotten a little bit by some people. Like, you're talking Roy Keane, one of the greatest players we've ever had, Paul McGrath. He's right up there, Hugh. He's up in the top three in my eyes, 100%.
Gary?
Undoubtedly, but I think if you don't bring him, who are you going to bring instead?
Yeah.
Genuinely, I mean, he has to go. And as Kevin said, which can't go unnoticed, for his influence around the team, around everything, around Martin O'Neill as well, because there's no doubt he takes counsel from him because he has to, because he's our greatest player, living player at the moment.
I mean, one of the things that has always stood out for me about Robbie is that he has always, well, certainly for the last 3 years, he has said, listen, when somebody comes along that's good enough to take my place, I will gladly step aside for the good of the team. He's always said that.
Yeah, and again, I think he'd be true to his word with that as well. I mean, Alan just touched on it there as well. His application is incredible. The way he trains, the desire he has to get the best out of himself, that's what he's always had. He is still that kid from Tala. You know, he is still that kid from Tala.
I was going to say, we spoke earlier about the enjoyment you had playing as a kid.
Yes.
He still seems to have that enjoyment at 37, 38.
He does. But yeah, so what was your
just in terms like when somebody comes along that'll take it, you know, it's good enough.
Yeah, and it's true. I don't see anybody. Gary touched on it there. There is nobody else. There's no one to touch him finishing wise. There isn't. So the problem is, he might not be as quick or as sharp as he was when he was up there amongst the elite in world football, and he's had spells, where he's had that in his career. He is one of the very, very best. He is the best striker that we've ever produced. That is without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
And I think he recognises that himself. He'll be training around the lads every day. He'll be around it all. Martin will see that as well. Martin won't just pick him because he's some guy that scored all these goals at international level because of his name, because of his reputation. Martin's a lot wiser than that. He'd speak to Robbie himself. If Robbie isn't good enough, he won't go. Robbie is good enough and he will go.
Okay, I want to ask the two lads specifically about tonight. Obviously, big game for Dundalk in the Electricity League Premier Division. Alan, didn't go to plan for them against Cork City, but Cork had the better of them in that President's Cup game just before the season kicked off, and I think they just fancied their chances. And you know what, Dundalk are going to have to scrap for this title this year if they won 3 in a row.
In some ways, it's kind of a good thing, Hugh, because there was a period there where Dundalk dominating the league for the last couple of years that you were nearly thinking they're going to dominate for the next 3, 4, 5 years, and it still could. But it's good that the gap has been bridged slightly in the sense that the other teams needed to improve, and Cork were always going to step up and try and improve, obviously with them being their closest rivals the last couple of years. And in fairness to John Caulfield, he signed 3 or 4 very good players, notably Greg Bulger, Kenny Brown, and they have closed the gap. Added that Dundalk have lost Towell and 30 goals, so they've kind of come back a little bit as well. Now, of course, Stephen Kenny has strengthened too, signing 2 lads. But I think it's good for the league that it's a little bit more. It's only early days. There's 3 or 4 games gone.
Of course, yeah.
But it does certainly look like it'll be a lot more competitive than it has been the last couple of years.
Keith, we have 5 teams on 9 points, I think. Dundalk, Sean Rovers, Cork City, St. Pat's and Derry. So it's a massive game for Pats tonight as well. I mean, if they can beat Dundalk tonight, they're really kind of laying down a marker for this season.
It is, yeah. I seen them the first game of the season. I wasn't too impressed, but they got a win down to Longford, I think, straight away after that, and they've had 3 consecutive wins. I think the players that they brought in won't be as good as the players that have left. Technically, I think it will take them a while. I thought Christy Fagan would have struggled to get service, but he's proved me wrong. He scored in every game. They have to keep him fit, though. I think they really have to keep him fit. Otherwise, there's not.
Fagan's the best player in the league.
Yeah, he is. He's
really?
technically,
Yeah. Fagan he's unbelievable. Christy Fagan, and they missed him so much last year with the injury. But the fact that he's back fit.
They play around him. The football that they play is all aimed at what he's good at as well. You know, getting ball into feet.
Do you miss the game? Do you miss playing?
Missed the game daily. Yeah. I was talking to Kevin about it earlier.
Sure, you never enjoyed it when you were playing.
No, I never enjoy it. Never show you enjoy it. But no, I missed the game. Missed the game of ball. That's how I'm busy now. I've started part-time college, which has me busy again. So I'm trying to replace it with something, but you'll never replace football, you know.
What was it like coming back from the Premier League and back to the League of Ireland First Division? I know, look, Roddy Collins has been wrapped in the knuckles, right, for comments that he made about the league over the last couple of days. And there's a lot of people that actually are defending him, and it looks like Waterford are going to reveal.
Is it?
I promise I won't set you up, but just generally, I mean, did you notice problems in the game still here that when you come back that you thought might have been kind of sorted out over the few years ago?
You do. Like I came back not thinking that things were going to be what I was at in England. I know the way the football was going when I left Ireland, it was going, and then it dropped down a little bit with money being spent, etc. But I came back and I felt things had gone a little bit backwards. Certain, even the stuff off the pitch, stuff on the pitch will always be good. I feel it's a good brand, young players that have been around. I think it's a decent brand, but I think off the pitch there has to be a lot more work. I think with everyone, with the whole lot working together a little bit better. I think just even some of the dressing rooms and some of the grounds. I probably sick of listening to me. I talk about the dressing rooms, the showers and that, but these players are told they're professional players. They're going to dressing rooms that some of them would barely spit out water at you to have a wash after a game. Some of them haven't got a place to wash their hands. All this type of stuff has to improve, because the players are really putting in the effort on the pitch and off the pitch as well. It's more professional. The lads are more professional than they were when I was at my peak in 2008. But there needs to be a lot more work as with everyone, not just pinpointing one.
Sure.
Thing. It needs to be, everyone needs to work better together.
Alan, I mean, Roddy's point is that the game here is in serious trouble without the people that, you know, get nothing in return for their efforts, that the game will be lost without supporters, without the volunteers to make it happen. And I obviously said it in stronger terms than that, which is why he got a bit of a rap. But I suppose there are a lot of people who would agree with him.
I'd agree with him. 100%. I think
it's the first time ever, is it?
Yeah,
it actually probably is. I wouldn't agree with a lot of what he has to say, but I think he's been harshly treated here.
I agree.
And he's been kind of
scapegoated
a little bit, and they've kind of come down. They've come down hard on him, probably because he's so involved that he's a manager in the league. So I can kind of get that side of it, but a lot of what he says, and a lot of people involved in League of Ireland would agree totally. And we've been banging on about this, Hugh, for so long now.
I know. But
everyone's waiting for someone to say something, you know. Like, I get asked about it now because I'm not playing, but am I going to make a difference? No, there's always questions, and nobody really wants to give the answers, you know.
Like, the one thing I always kind of point to nowadays, like, because we've banged on about this for so long, and until someone grabs it by the scruff of the neck, it's going nowhere. It really is. Yeah. And we're down here now in the Aviva Stadium getting ready for an international tomorrow. 1/3 of the squad that will go to the Euros played in the League of Ireland and started in the League of Ireland. You had Keith Hare playing in the League of Ireland, went on to play for Ireland. Like, if that's not enough of an excuse for people to get involved in the game here and invest in the game properly here, when you see how hard it is now for young lads to go to England and make it in England, it's even harder than when we were going, or anyone else. So that's reason enough in itself, an unbelievable reason when you can just see the amount of lads, Seamus Coleman, Shane Long, all the lads that will play in the Euros all started here. So why it's a no-brainer for me why people can't get involved here and put the structures and put the things in place. And I'm not saying it's easy. As Keith said, everybody has to row in behind it. Everybody has to get put for the good of the game, not for their own self-interest, because there's too much self-interest. It's for the good of the game, for the bigger picture, and if we're ever going to progress, because the players are there and the product is there. It's all the stuff that goes on outside, which is a shambles. We've had 2 games already. The floodlights have failed. The league is only starting. You go to pitches, the pitches are a shambles. Like, it's not good enough. It's gone beyond a joke now, and something needs to change.
I think the thing with a lot of the younger players too, if you look at players in their early 20s, like, emotionally for them, it is a shop window to go somewhere else. So the platform has to be, if the gap is going to be between here and across the water, that wide, they're never going to bridge that gap. So there has to be a lot more work done. Because you think of kids play, as Keith was saying, you play for fun at a certain age, and then you get to a certain level and you think, well, maybe I'm quite good at this. And you get to a League of Ireland level, and then your mindset then is, well, can I go further? But if you don't have the product here to help you to get further, you can't get further on your own. You need help to do that, and I think that's where it's disappointing. And as you say, if there's only a third of the squad that's going to the Euros from the League of Ireland, how can you not support that?
Like
Where does all the money go?
Dundalk are the champions at the moment. I'm not picking on Dundalk. They're a fantastic team, and we've praised them to the highest any show. Their ground is a shambles. Oriel Park.
The pitch,
It's
specifically,
the
or the
pitch,
whole
thing, the dressing rooms,
let's be honest
pitch,
about
the
it.
pitch is absolutely disgraceful, to be honest.
Really?
I watched it the other night. Some of the Astro pitches you look at, they look like grass.
Yeah.
It looks nothing like grass.
No, it doesn't.
It plays nothing like grass either.
Kevin, I mean, we had a fascinating conversation with Niall Quinn about 9 months ago, where he made the point that somebody is missing a trick here, because the Irish love their football. Clearly we have players, from the age when they could start running, they're nearly kicking the ball around. So the interest is there, the game is here, but something isn't transferring to make this game, the domestic game, and the Irish League the success that it could be.
Yeah, there's got to be. There has to be something done. Of course there does. The Irish people love the sport, and with the success of our domestic teams, I'm sure that we'll start to get success within the national team as well. That goes hand in hand. I mean, you've got two no better guys at different ages. They've both been over to England. They've both come back to play League of Ireland. Keith then went back. Of course, started at Arsenal, back over here, then went back to England. So you've got no better guys than someone like these two here to start to tell you what exactly is happening in the League of Ireland. But I've been around a number of clubs in England where lads have come over from England, from Ireland over to England, and they found it difficult. Certainly at early ages, found it difficult. They've come back, and they've maybe settled here, or lads have maybe not been at the right age to go. Keith probably say himself, he probably wasn't the right age to go at 15, too young. And all of a sudden, then you get to 19, 20, 21, and now then they're making an impact. Then they're maybe right to go over. There might be something that's got to be done in place to bridge that gap for maybe 3 or 4 years, where they can maybe have time to excel in a good league. And if we really push the league over here, I'm sure that the people will come out and support.
Now, I will say, Hugh, Shamrock Rovers are setting up structures at the moment with their academy and their youth setup, and they're trying to put proper things in place. So there is stuff being done in certain places, but the wider picture is not enough is being done, and everybody needs to row in behind it for the greater good of the game.
Just on that, by the way, I want to mention St. Kevin's are having an under-13 Academy Cup this weekend, and you might say, what's so special about that? Well, it's a chance to see Barcelona under-13s, Deportivo are sending a team over, West Brom, Celtic, and obviously St. Kevin's are hosting it. So it's on all this weekend. It's called the Academy Cup, Friday to Sunday. So if you want to get a chance to go and see some of the best underage talent in Europe at the moment, I mean, to have Barcelona coming over to play St. Kevin's is absolutely fantastic.
Like St. Kevin's have a fantastic setup, Hugh, schoolboy, but they need to be kind of integrated into there's too much separate stuff going on,
I think there's a lot of parochialism involved in it as well. You have a situation, especially down the country, that clubs don't buy in. There's not a mindset to buy into the League of Ireland as much as there should be. You have amateur football, junior football. That gap needs to be bridged, and take the parochialism out of it and think of the greater good.
Okay, we've a couple of questions to get through because we're almost at the end. I don't know where the time goes, to be honest with you. All right, this one from Lee Prendergast. Can Ireland pull a Greece at Euro 2016? Honestly, says Lee.
I don't see any reason why not. We're probably better than Greece when they won the Euros in 2004. It'll going to be difficult, of course it is. But I think if we get out of the group, it'll be a success. And I believe that we can actually do that. Yeah, looking at the teams that's in there. Yeah.
Keith Martin O'Neill says today, look, we beat Germany. Why can't we go and beat anybody else?
It's true. Like they can beat anyone. In football, anyone can beat anyone. So
why not? Alan.
Yeah.
I think the fact that the group now, there's 24 teams and only 8 will go out after the first stage. They have a great opportunity to get through the group stages, and I think they will. And going back to the Euros, I think they'll be probably better set up this time around with O'Neill and more rather than what they were under Trapattoni. So
I think there'll be a better atmosphere around the squad as well. The squad itself going into
that's massive though, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's huge.
Well, you were there, Keith. You were there for 12, weren't you? You were in the squad. So Keith is probably your man, but I know that there wasn't.
There wasn't. I pulled out with injury.
Yeah, but it was a long spell leading up to it.
Preparation. I think they were here, they were there, and it was a long stretch going into it. I think.
Okay, listen, we're almost at the end. Another question here: which Irish player wouldn't spend Christmas? Well, I know I can't vouch for you, Alan. I'm only joking. Look, lads, thanks a million for your time this evening. Really appreciate it. I think our question of the night is going to go to Lee Prendergast for the Ireland. Can we pull off a Greece at Euro 2016? Lee, you're going to the matches tomorrow and next Tuesday, and we have a winner on social media who will notify in due course. Andrew, yeah, okay, we'll be in touch with the winner on social media as well. Thanks to everyone who tweeted us tonight. Thanks to our studio audience, to Aviva for putting us up and being brilliant hosts, and to the lads as well. Would you please give a big hand for Kevin, for Keith, Alan and for Gary. Okay, that's our lot for tonight. We are live from the Aviva Stadium here tomorrow night for the Republic of Ireland against Switzerland for a specially extended game on. Hope you can join us then. Stay tuned, the news and Louise McSharry is on the way.
Game on 2FM in association with Aviva, proud sponsor and supporter of the IRFU Mini Rugby Festivals.